Thank you, Richard. If you can stop sharing and I'll take over. Right, good evening, everybody. Let's just move that out of the way. Yes, good evening and welcome to this project update talk on big city butterflies as we enter our final year of the project. And thanks for the introduction. So yes, I'm Steve Bolton, I'm the Conservation Officer on the project. So I'll be talking about my role and what we've been getting up to over the last year. Then I'll hand you over to Ellie, the Engagement Officer, and she's going to give you a bit of an update on the work she's been doing. So just as a bit of a recap on our objectives for the project. So the first one, to help Londoners discover and connect with butterflies, moths and the green spaces that support them. So doing lots of work kind of all over London and lots of different types of green spaces as well. To improve the quality and connectivity of green spaces and to increase their suitability for butterflies and moths in their environment. So again, working with a wide range of partners and lots of different green spaces to work on their connectivity as well. We want to increase the levels of recording and monitoring across London, so we're setting up lots of different recording schemes, and to increase the opportunities for butterfly conservation to engage with new audiences. And that covers all of our work, and particularly some of the work that Ellie's been doing in terms of engagement. And then we want to, butterfly conservation enables us to develop and test new approaches to conservation in an urban context, so trying out different techniques and learning from those techniques and sharing kind of best practice, if you like. Again, quick reminder of the project area. So we've got 17 mainly inner London boroughs that you can see on the screen there, and working very much alongside the 4 branches on their patches, and then obviously integrating all of that work as we go. And we've got these 3 main themes of the project. So recording and monitoring, so we do lots of training workshops, for example, and looking to establish new recording schemes. Ellie focuses on the engagement side of things, so looking to engage a wider audience, more diverse communities, and doing school workshops, that type of thing. And then I again focus on habitat management, so again doing training workshops, site advice visits, that kind of thing. And we've got a budget for seeding and planting. So this screen gives you, this screen gives you just a quick sort of overview really of all the different activities, with the green being the kind of recording schemes, the yellow being engagement, and the blue and the red being habitat management work. So you can see we've got a pretty good spread across that project area, and this sort of gives you a quick snapshot and helps us sort of see strategically if there are any kind of gaps that where we want to sort of do more work and help sort of connect sites. So I can go into a bit more detail of some of those. And so looking at recording and monitoring activities so far, we've delivered 22 training workshops over this last year, and to date in the project it's about 57 workshops, and we've trained 583 people. So these are kind of primarily butterfly identification and recording training workshops. We also do moth recording workshops as well, and that's translated into 43 new recording schemes that have been established to date. And again, it's a variety of different recording schemes, and I'll come into those in more detail. And you can see a pretty good spread across London, and again helping us to identify gaps, and there's a few more coming in this next year as well. So a bit of a gap here down in southwest London, Brockwell Park. We're able to establish some moth recording down here, for example, and a bit of a gap here in kind of East London. So we've got a volunteer offering to do some surveys at Mile End Park, and then Wanstead Park, working with the Essex branch on a new transept at Wanstead Park. Should be good. And this is Just some examples of some of those recording and monitoring workshops. This is the one at Waterloo Park, it says there in Camden. So very much working with different partners. So in this case, it was the Council Biodiversity Officer who helped set up and kind of publicise this. So it was sort of publicised all across Camden, and Waterloo Park proved a really good site, really good variety of habitat there, with both formal planting, meadow areas, wild areas, woodland areas. So we saw quite a lot of species actually on that one session, which people really enjoyed. And then we have now got links with the Friends group who are going to start doing regular iRecord surveys next year. Then just another example at Chinbrook Meadows in Lewisham. This is more of a kind of family focus and linked with big butterfly count. So you can see quite a good age range there with younger people and some children coming to enjoy looking for butterflies, going on a butterfly hunt and doing some recording for big butterfly count. And again, we're looking to establish some regular iRecord surveys there next year. So these are some moth recording workshops. So another one working with that sort of council partner in Camden down at Adelaide Nature Reserve, quite a nice sort of hidden, tucked away wild space in Camden. Got a good turnout for that, and had certainly over 10 different moth species which we recorded, and actually we were able to supply Camden with a battery-powered moth trap so they can continue and are continuing to do some regular recording at their site there at Adelaide Nature Reserve. Then at Wandsworth Common, they are working with the Friends group in that case, and a chap called Richard Tillett, who was interested in getting involved in some moth recording. We had a good group of people come along to that workshop, and was able to include our national moth recorder, Les Evans-Hill, who traps nearby and lives nearby on Putney Heath. So good to have his sort of local expertise on that site. And again, there should be continuing to doing some regular recording. So yes, in terms of some of the new sites that we've established over the last year, there's 24 different sites, and just a sort of selection of those to give you an idea. Probably the highlight was the new transect that was established at Shrewsbury Park in Greenwich, and you can see the transect routes there. A real fantastic site. So yeah, over 26 species, butterfly species recorded, over 2,500 butterflies in that 1 year, one recording season last year, which is one of the highest in all of London. So a real positive one there. And yes, it is got a good habitat, a variety of habitats on that site. Lots of long grass meadow areas, which have only recently actually been allowed to grow long, and meadow management with cut and collect management being introduced. Lots of good scrub edge habitat and native shrubs and trees that help support a really good variety of butterflies. So that includes the brown hair streak you can see there, which is quite a recent record for the site. We also have green hair streak, which is great to see, and purple hair streak. Another one nearby in Greenwich was Avery Hill Park, a new transit there. Again, a good reasonable number of species for London, 19 species and over 1,000 butterflies counted. And that's working with the Friends group there, who sort of volunteered to walk that transect, and have been really instrumental in pushing forward and pushing the council to do more cut and collect management, more meadow management, and have taken and have been creating their own kind of sort of little mini meadows, if you like, by doing plug planting and flower planting. Then, as well as transects, we've been doing iRecord surveys, establishing those as a more of a kind of entry-level thing that doesn't require quite so much time commitment as a transect, and it works very well. Using the iRecord app with this kind of identification guide. So Kensal Green Cemetery is a site there in Kensington where we recorded 14 species, 157 butterflies. And again, that's got a good, really good example of a kind of cemetery site with a good variety of habitats and lots of good native shrub species, for example. Valentine's Park, an example of moth recording, and again, that's enlisted help with some local experts. So Bill Crooks is a kind of Essex moth recorder, who's helping support working with the kind of council ranger team at Valentine's Park, and had some real good variety of good number of records, 305 records over the last year. And this shows a kind of table of the R-Record survey data, just as a way of collating that data and then able to sort of share that with the branches and importantly with the volunteers themselves, so that they can begin to see what other sites, what other species are being recorded in the area, and then hoping to continue that in the years to come, so that we can begin to compare year on year as well. Hopefully foster a bit of a community of recorders, so they can see what else is going on around them. So moving on to habitat management, and this just gives a bit of a summary of kind of achievements to date, if you like. So 20,000 square meters of meadow habitats being created or improved, across that whole project area. This method that you can see in the image is sort of scraping back turf and topsoil using that method, but we've used different methods with sort of cut and collect management, for example. We planted 361 shrubs and 56 trees, and there's been some really sort of comprehensive planting schemes, which I can touch on in a few slides. And then worked really well in terms of supplying flower pots and plugs to different community groups, different gardens. So 2,036 of those to help improve different sites. So then focusing on the last year, 2023, we've done 4 meadow creation projects in those boroughs: Camden, Tower Hamlets, Brent and Lewisham. So that first image there, top left, is Victoria Park in Tower Hamlets, which is kind of an underrepresented borough, if you like, where we wanted to really engage and do more work in some of those boroughs, particularly in East London, where butterfly conservation hadn't done much work in the past. And they're working with the park staff there. They were really keen to be involved, and you can see this is actually in almost a playground area and next to the kind of cafe and sort of community hub. So a really nice location to be right in the midst of it. And you can see, this was the work was sort of started in spring, and then by the summer, with some of the cornfield annual flowers that are in that mix, this marigold here, already putting on a bit of a show this summer. And then we're hoping next year we expect to see more of the perennial wildflowers like oxeye daisy and knapweed coming through, to have that sort of sustainable perennial meadow mix, if you like. And then, being on such a good engagement spot, we then went on and did a big butterfly count kind of walk, family friendly walk, with this child here coming along, helping me catch butterflies and get them in a pot and releasing them, which they really enjoyed doing. The one below here on the bottom left is quite a big scrape at Hampstead Heath Extension, so working with the City of London and their ecologists there, putting in a real nice big size scrape. And we can see we get some signage up there to explain what we're doing and why. And again, we've got this initial kind of flush of marigold and some cornflower there. You can see some skipper butterflies that were been attracted, and we're going to be monitoring these sites to see how they're kind of colonized in the next few years. Another site for meadow creation was Ladywell Fields in Lewisham. using the same technique, and the topsoil is retained on site and just sort of forms this low bank to help provide shelter, and that can be sort of become quite grassy and sort of scrubby even, and it's this area, that the main area in front, that should have the meadow and the diversity in the longer term that's on the subsoil. And it just keeps the cost down and means we're not removing soil from sites, for example. Some lovely Viper's food loss coming through. And the nice thing about this site, and you can see in the top image and these images, it's kind of integrated and alongside a kind of tiny forest, which is a kind of a scheme of the native shrub and tree planting to support wildlife, and it's really beneficial for butterflies and moths as well. So really nice to kind of integrate it with other planting scheme and things that are going on. Then we've done quite a few sites, 13 sites last year, improved with wildflower planting or seeding. And continuing the work in the top left is working on Islington, in Islington housing estates, with different partners, and getting the local community involved in some seeding there. Next one, top right, is King George's Park, improving some formal planting with a good variety of kind of wildflowers that are running there. Then again, supplying pod plants, and there's some verbena there as well for different community gardens. Then that's in Tower Hamlets, I think, that middle one. And then bottom right, we've got some seeding, working on park in Greenwich, with Elson Park North, working with the council. They did some scarification, and the local community were getting involved in doing some seeding, and particularly yellow rattle, to help try and sort of control the grass a bit and encourage more wildflowers. Then we're obviously keen, as well as the kind of meadow kind of planting and flower planting. We do tree and shrub planting as well, again, to have those variety of kind of food plants and help create shelter for butterflies and moths. So 4 sites over the last year, and we've got a few more to do over this winter as well. But that first one on the top left is continuing some elm tree planting, disease-resistant elm planting at Valentine's Park and Redbridge, to create a new, or finish off a new elm avenue, which is going to be a really nice landscape feature. Working with the range team and local volunteers there. And we'll be creating some meadow strips alongside those trees as well. Top right is some shrub planting in Queen's Park in Brent. And yeah, things like hawthorn, blackthorn, buckthorn in a sort of small block. And that kind of native shrub planting is often missing from parks, and that helps provide really good food sources and shelter, particularly where it's kind of integrated with long grass or kind of meadow areas or nettles even, as is the case with that one. The bottom 2 are comprehensive planting scheme at Lyrefield Fields in Lewisham, working primarily with the Friends Group, who are really keen to sort of improve the park for biodiversity and butterflies and moths. And again, doing sort of small blocks of shrub planting to kind of introduce those kind of food plants and this kind of shelter habitat that's often missing. And this is another image from Lyrefield Field. So you can see this almost circular shrub block, temporarily just fenced off as it establishes, but then also integrated with bigger trees. So we've got oak and elm trees planted. And here they were keen to kind of establish a new woodland zone, with some woodland flower planting as well. And as that develops, it should be a really nice addition to the park there. And yeah, hopefully we're having that lasting impact. So just included a quote there from Mike Williams from the Friends Group, who we've been working with. So yeah, he was saying overall the project feels like a great success. It's brilliant for butterfly conservation, it's made all this possible. with your generous support, not just the hugely valuable relation of freeze whips and plugs, but also the expert consultancy and advice and community engagement. So, yeah, that was a real a good project, and yeah, it's going to continue on for years to come. Then another element of the habitat management activities over this last year has been habitat management training workshops. And we've had to have this focus on wild spaces, particularly this last year as the kind of UK wild spaces campaign has kicked off, and particularly with the brilliant wild spaces hub and all that good information which is quite suited to sort of urban habitats and gardens, and lots of ideas of sort of how to support butterflies and moths. So we've been tying in with that. Also been working on improving management plans and management agreements to support butterflies and moths where we can. And yeah, those images show some of the management training workshops. So Rockingham Estate in Southwark, and really building up they've got quite a good network there of community gardens, and the council actually have staff that help support some of those that community work. And we help supply, for example, they were wanting to do some bulb planting to provide spring nectar. So we help supply, I think, about 3,000 bulbs to be planted out on the Rockingham Estate, and so get community involved. Another one at Golden Lane Estate, very much in the central London and the city of London, so near the Barbican, and the community group there. We've got this lovely little food growing community garden and this sort of wild space area. It's got some good food plants in there. So a really good sort of example of what can be done in sort of inner London. And then another one we did at Ravenscourt Park in Hammersmith, working with partners there. So my final slide before I hand over to Ellie was just to touch on Project Legacy. So we're into the final year of the project now, and just really wanting to sort of cement the work and establish how we can continue that work and continue the momentum of the project, and working with the branches very much as well. So one of those is kind of providing some useful resources to sort of share some of the things we've learned. So I'm drafting an urban habitat management guide at the moment to kind of sit alongside the butterfly identification and kind of a recording leaflet that we did, which is this leaflet here on the right of the screen. So it's going to kind of sit alongside that, so that we're covering the kind of habitat and the recording side of things. And yeah, as I say, we can share best practice and also have some relevant London case studies in there as well. And yeah, for sites where we have directly supported the habitat improvements, we are signing 10-year, having these 10-year management agreements with partners to ensure they are maintained and incorporated into their management plans for the longer term. Then we're working on looking at butterfly data to really get to grips with that in terms of inner London, and looking at population trends. So that's both the kind of abundance trends, looking at transit data, and also distribution trends from the other data, and that's really going to help inform some of our thinking and our planning, and help our partners do the same thing. And yes, so that data analysis can help inform management plans. Then we are developing and supporting the development of an inner London landscape plan, which really helps kind of recognise the value of working in urban habitats, and also the many opportunities for engaging with different people and a sort of wider audience of people, different partners, different stakeholders. So that's really going to help set out our kind of thinking on that basis. And we'll include, these kind of landscape scale actions, thinking about priority species that we want to support, but also linking that to different stakeholders, and the opportunities to engage with a wide range of people. And we're also looking at ecological network mapping as part of that, which will potentially help target where we might best sort of do that conservation work, looking at pollinator-friendly pathways, for example, between sites, and having that mapped out is a really useful tool to help that work and sort of inform work that partners are doing. So the landscape plan will help inputs to borough-wide nature recovery plans and Greater London Authority London-wide nature recovery strategy as well, which can be sort of important management documents for boroughs and councils. And we hope to kind of influence and have an input to those in this kind of final year to kind of cement some of the work we've been doing. I've talked a bit obviously about some of the recording schemes that we've established, and we want to ensure there's some continuity there so that they can continue once the project is finished. So making sure we've got a support network so that volunteers kind of understand where they can go if they need some help. So with our new volunteer database called Assemble, for example, would be a simple way to connect with staff and other volunteers, and make sure there are the appropriate links there with the branch network as well. Then finally, we want to share some of the successes and lessons learned. We've got a big conference event coming up towards the end of the project, which is going to be brilliant to bring a lot of the volunteers and partners together. And we've got quite a detailed evaluation report and evaluation consultant that's helping us kind of crunch the numbers in terms of the engagement and work that we've done across London. That's going to be really useful to kind of evaluate the impact of the project. So thank you very much for listening. I think that's it from me, and I'll hand you over to Ellie now to share what she's been up to with engagements.
Great, thank you. Bear with me. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Great. Okay, so thank you, Steve. So as mentioned before, I'm the engagement officer on the project. So I'm going to be focusing on that part of the work. So I'm just showing you a similar map to the one that Steve, or the few that Steve showed you earlier. This one's just focusing in on engagement activities. So you can see there's a spread across London, and as Steve said, we use this map to kind of as a strategy and to see which gaps we need to fill in. So really the whole point of engagement is reaching wider, more diverse audiences. So really trying to bring everyone on the journey with us. And I do this through school workshops and community events and partnerships. So working with lots of different communities throughout London. And you'll probably hear me mention this later, but this is all about co-creating opportunity. So learning from each other and learning what the community wants. And these include community arts projects as well, which are really exciting kind of bigger projects that focus on art forms that mean something to the community as well. So I'm going to talk about these in turn. And the final one is high footfall public events. So those are events with lots of footfall. So it could be things like festivals, shows, but they're all places where we'd interact with lots of people to kind of spread that message. And just to go back to the map as well, so the yellow points are all different engagement opportunities like community events and high footfall events. And then the red ones are where we've delivered school workshops as well. And it's kind of quite zoomed out map. So if you were to zoom in on those points, there's some that are overlapping as well. we go. So going to go through those each in turn. So starting with school workshops. Similar to Steve, I've done kind of like a whole project overview and then narrowed down on some individual examples as well. So so far we've delivered 72 school workshops across London, and an estimated 1,350 children have been engaged through these. So the school workshops are kind of divided in two. So the first workshop is all about an introduction to butterflies and moths, and really kind of getting them to fall in love with butterflies and moths and get excited about helping them and learning more as well. So this first workshop does focus on habitats. And so we into the second half of it, we do lots of planting. So you can see here, we kind of make sure that we're using nectar sources, caterpillar food plants, and providing shelter as well. So it links really well to Butterfly Conservation's Wild Spaces campaign that Steve mentioned. And these schools do really vary in the space that they've got, but often we're kind of planting in these big planters, or it might be pots and window boxes as well. And then the second school workshop I go back to do in the summer, and this is all about learning more about the life cycle. So really building on that first workshop and building that knowledge. And we also talk about adaptation during the life cycle and have some live specimens to see different examples of each stage of the life cycle. So this is a really exciting workshop, and I think it really kind of cements that learning and gets them really engaged. So far in the project, we've worked with 17 different schools, and 12 of those we've planted in their school grounds. So it's either not always possible to plant in their school grounds, and we give the children something that they can take home. And the kind of disparity between the numbers might also be because of the first year where COVID was a bigger issue, so we weren't always able to actually go into the schools as well. So we did lots of kind of virtual visits. And this is just to show you a tiny bit of planting that we did at one school. So we often plant loads of different plants, lots of native perennials, but we also do some simple planting like planting nasturtiums as well. So nasturtiums are caterpillar food for white species, and they're really easy for the children to kind of handle and plant the seeds. And this is one that we planted one spring about a year ago. And then we came back in the summer and there were already small white caterpillars on it. So it was really exciting to kind of see that working so quickly in the school grounds. And also linked to schools, I've also been busy doing some resources as well. So these link to the Wild Spaces campaign, and it's all about kind of encouraging the children to go out into their school grounds and have a look and see what else they need to plant to support butterflies and moths. So next on to community engagement and partnerships. So we've delivered 74 different community events across the course of the project so far, and this has engaged about 2,000 people. So I should say as well that these community events have been heavily supported by volunteers, and Steve has also mentioned lots of community planting events that he's done. So there's been a whole host of people that have been involved in these. And these have kind of changed from the first year or two of the project into this third year that we've just done. And now they're really starting to focus on different communities, and we're really starting to work more on co-creating opportunities rather than going to people and telling them what we want to deliver. So I've picked out a couple of examples here, and these are all from 2023. So this first one on the left-hand side was called Stories Under Starlight, and it was a series of events in collaboration with Bat Conservation Trust and the Wanderers of Colour. And these were in Kensington and Chelsea and Lambeth boroughs as well. And this group was all about kind of looking at nighttime wildlife and how we can record it, which obviously include moths. So we did lots of moth trapping and learning more about those. But also the group really wanted to learn more about storytelling and how to pass that on to other people as well. So we really had this strong storytelling focus and learning about recording and other actions to support nighttime wildlife. And as mentioned before, it was really co-created with the Wanderers of Colour, who are a really amazing grassroots organisation. And that picture I've just put up there is one that we did later in the night. So we did some different types of moth trapping and also looked for bats as well. And that was in Roots and Shoots in Lambeth. So over on the right-hand side, this collaboration was with London Wildlife Trust and their Nature Nurtures project. So Nature Nurtures is a project all about nature for young people who are 16 to 30. And we worked with them on 2 different occasions in Hackney. So the first session was all about introducing butterflies and moths, talking a lot about their ecology and especially caterpillar food plants. So we looked around Woodbury wetlands, the reserve, and kind of picked out different food plants that species would eat. And yeah, really focusing on ecology and bringing art into it as well. So you can see in that picture there, the young people are busy making canvas bags and kind of adding different things onto them. And we also did moth trapping and journaling about butterflies and moths as well. So really trying to use different ways to engage people and for them to access nature. And then the second workshop we did with the young people, it was actually a different group. So we've had kind of a few different people come along to these. The second workshop was wild space themed. So as Steve mentioned, we're really trying to bring this wild space campaign into our different activities and spread the word about that as well. So with this one, it was slightly different because it was at night, which was quite exciting. So we actually did some habitat management on Woodbury wetlands. So the young people here are making dead hedges, and that will support butterflies in terms of shelter. And we also made some window boxes. So the young people were able to kind of make those and paint them and take lots of different plants home to support butterflies and moths as well. So as well as kind of one-off collaborations or kind of smaller workshops, we also do bigger community arts projects, which again, it's all about co-creation. And these, we have a budget to do this, so they're normally a lot bigger or involve a lot more people. So there's a couple to focus on in 2023, but also the arts projects that you might have heard of before are The Colour of Transformation, which was all about documentary and filming and dance. And then we also did one called Moth Fest in Tower Hamlets Cemetery Park, which is all about moths, hence the name. So yeah, the couple that we did in 2023 were with 2 very different community groups. So the first one was with Providence House Youth Club in Wandsworth. And we, as well as the community arts project, we also provided plants for them, and Steve was there helping us plant. And we also attended a kind of big event with them as well to reach lots of different young people. But this specific collaboration was centered around dance and costume. So we started with leading some workshops to introduce the children to butterflies and moths and really focusing on the life cycle and teaching them more about that. So yeah, they found the life cycle a real hook. So they co-created a project with ourselves and a dance company called E33. And they ended up with this really amazing dance that was looking at the different stages of the life cycle and how they could show that through movement. And it was really lovely. And I got to go and see that at the Wandsworth Fringe Festival. So they actually performed at the Royal Academy of Dance, which was really great. And the second performance they did was at a really big high footfall event called Farm to City, which was in Wandsworth as well. So that was a week-long event where lots of different organisations came to engage about conservation and farming and the environment as well. So that picture there is one of our volunteers called Becky, and she came with me to the Wandsworth Fringe, and we were trying to engage everyone in the Royal Academy of Dance. So that's Becky there. And this picture is just to show you that we also collected lots of feedback from people watching the dance, and we had some really, really moving feedback about it. One of the ones you can see there says heartwarming, community, support, and joy. So those were some of the feelings that people felt when they were watching that dance. And the second one over on the right-hand side is Sustainably Muslim. So again, they're a really brilliant grassroots organisation based in London and founded by Nazia. So we've been really working closely with them, not just on this community arts project, but also supporting them in other ways. So we've provided them with a moth trap, and I'll be going ahead this year to teach them more about recording. We've provided plants for their community garden and given them advice on what to do with those as well and how to plant them. But this community arts project was really brilliant, and again, it was co-created with Nazia, but she actually sent the request out to her community and really worked with them to see what type of things they'd want to do that were related to butterflies and moths. So we ended up with a really lovely curated program of different events, and those ranged from cyanotype printing to jewellery making, and they also had this really lovely community day where they did loads of different things like creating a wild space, more arts, they had face painting, and a butterfly walk as well. So just shows you lots of different ways that people can get engaged there. Just a couple more pictures from the collaboration as well. And again, this is one of our volunteers, and she's leading a butterfly walk for the children on that community day. And again, more pictures of this. So this is on the community day again, and this was lots of the children and families getting involved in creating a wild space. So the final activities that we deliver ourselves as part of engagement are these big public events that I mentioned. So these are where we can meet up to kind of hundreds of people normally actually that come through these. And it's all about promoting different campaigns like Big Butterfly Count or Wild Spaces, promoting other outcomes that we want to see, like more recording, more monitoring, and also just sharing our knowledge and love of butterflies and moths and different advice that people want. And we often have different sort of crafts or planting there so people can get hooked in. And yeah, just to say as well, we always have lots of volunteer help, whether that's volunteers like Alistair or branches who provide so much support for us for these events. And we've attended 17 so far, and around about 7,000, oh, I almost said 700,000 then, 7,000 people engaged. It's actually over that. So yeah, they're a really good chance to meet lots of people from the communities and pass on this knowledge and sort of the different outcomes we want. So there's some other elements of engagement as well. So not just those activities that I've mentioned. We also have partnerships with different community groups as well. So our main one is with Wild in the City, who are another grassroots organisation that we've worked with since the development of the project. And I won't read out all the words on here, but essentially they do all this amazing work to support people from Black, Asian and minority ethnic backgrounds. And it's all about kind of creating a community for those people where they feel safe and teaching them skills in order to pass that on to other people in the community as well. So far, they've delivered one course, which is called Nature Connectors, which is exactly what that does. And that picture in the middle is from it in 2023. So we're aiming to deliver another one next year. And I should say this is all delivered by Wild in the City. We have lots of meetings and collaborate with them, but it's all delivered by them to their communities. And we're also looking to support further training for Wild in the City as well. So really keeping that knowledge and that partnership going. And throughout the Big City Butterflies project, we also support campaigns. And I know Steve and I have mentioned this quite a lot, so I won't go into this in too much detail. But yeah, campaigns like Wild Spaces, so that mission to create 100,000 wild spaces by 2026. And if it isn't already in the chat, I don't know if Steve or Bill could just pop a link into Wild Spaces just in case people haven't heard of it. And that second the second one is Big Butterfly Count as well. So that is a really big one that we promote in the summer in those 3 weeks that it occurs in. And this picture here is just to show you a different way of promoting Big Butterfly Count. So we set up this, we called it the Big City Six, and we set up these 6 giant butterfly species in Beckenham Place Park. And it was a way of getting people to learn how to identify these sort of quite widespread butterflies, but also to show people that it's easy to do that and show them how to get involved in the Big Butterfly Count as well. So we created this really big trail that people could take part in. And then similar to Steve, I'm just going to finish off with legacy. So what's next? Steve covered loads of really amazing points about the legacy. So hopefully I've got a few different ones here that link directly to engagement. I've kind of split these into 2 different categories, but there's loads more and they kind of all interlink as well. So this first one is what I've called continuing the journey. So we really want to convert those the engagement audiences to different butterfly conservation opportunities. So I've just listed a few, but there's countless ones that people can hopefully get involved in. So the first one is wild spaces, which we've mentioned a lot. If we get people to create their wild spaces or register their wild spaces, it's a way that they continue that engagement and keep getting communication from butterfly conservation. There's also Discover and Learn. So BC has a portal for learning, which would be particularly good for schools to kind of carry on their learning with. So that's something that I try and do with every workshop is show people that portal and get people to carry on their learning with that too. And also Discover and Learn is having new content all the time. So there's some that links directly back to wild spaces as well. Steve mentioned this, but Assemble. So once we've got all our volunteers on Assemble, there's going to be lots of different ways that they can find out about other volunteer roles, whether that's kind of micro volunteering or other things like recording and monitoring. So lots of different opportunities there for them as well to continue that journey. And then, there's so many opportunities to kind of carry this on. So we've been working really closely with the branches. And one idea that we really want to do is have a wild spaces coordinator for the different areas of London. So that'll be, a really good way to kind of continue that work on past the life of the project. This kind of screenshot below is from the Discover and Learn portal. So there's lots of different resources on there and a really great animation which talks through the life cycle. And then over on this side, I've kind of talked about these lasting partnerships. So I think this is a really big part of legacy for engagement is carrying on these partnerships past the life of the project. So the first one I've put on here is BC branches. So we've had this brilliant partnership throughout the project, and they've been really instrumental in the success of the project. So really, it's just kind of linking people and our community in London to the branches and making sure we've got those connections there to carry on that work. And that picture below is just an example of how we're aiming to do this. So in 2023, we had a really successful volunteer kind of celebration where all our community came together and people were able to meet in person. And we had over 60 people there, and it was just a great way to kind of get everyone to meet in person. So we're hoping to carry on those meetups, hopefully every year with all the different areas of London kind of coming together. And then I kind of talked about partnerships a lot. So a couple of main ones that I've mentioned are Wild in the City and Sustainably Muslim. So we're working with them to see how we can carry on our work together after the project. So really looking at things like the youth panel that is going to be launched soon. So there'll be an opportunity for young people to kind of work directly with BC staff and really have some input into the work we do. So I'm hoping that people from those different communities that Wild in the City and Sustainably Muslim reach will be involved in that. And I've already had some interest, so it'll be really great to kind of see that connection as well. And then also different training opportunities. So making sure that the partnerships we have got the resources to carry on with butterflies and moths, carry on with recording and other ways of learning as well. And then finally, again, Steve mentioned this, but we've got an external evaluator. So we're really this year trying to ask what our partners would like to see us do to sort of carry on the work after the life of the project. So what resources do they need in place to really carry all of this work on? And then finally, Steve sort of mentioned a couple of the ones that relate to his areas of work. So we've created different leaflets and resources throughout the project that will still be available. So that's a really important legacy for the project. But also any kind of creative outputs we have, like films and other kind of artistic outcomes that are permanent, will sort of continue that legacy as well. And I'm really excited that we have just commissioned 2 different films for the final year of the project. So one that's a kind of documentary style film, and the second which is a bit more creative and will have a really big impact and talk about our community. And just before I finish, I'm not going to read all of these slides out, but this is just to kind of give you an example of our evaluation. So this was actually evaluating the 2nd year, and we're about to go through our evaluation for that 3rd year that we've just delivered. So it's just to show you that we found that through the project, people are learning new skills. People are learning more about Lepidoptera and nature conservation. So we've got some really lovely stats about what people have indicated in their surveys. People are being inspired to take action through the project. So we've got a stat there that 83% said they're more likely to take action to protect or get involved in local green spaces. And then finally, the last one that I've put up here is that people are feeling more connected to nature and wildlife. So as I said, those are from the year 2 of the project, and we're hoping to kind of even increase those percentages more with this 3rd year of the project. So it kind of shows you that everything we've talked about for the legacy, we're also creating this legacy throughout the project as well with all of these kind of different elements. And that is it from me. So I've popped on some different information here. I would just point out as well that we do have a new Wild Spaces portal, so I haven't actually put that up-to-date link in, but I can put that in the chat in a moment. But yeah, feel free to get in touch with us about anything, and we're always looking for sort of more volunteers as well. So please let us know if you're interested. And I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. Richard, should I stop the recording before questions?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. Okay, great.
That was great, Ellie and Steve.